United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes of the December 5th meeting we received. Questions, comments, anything on the minutes from December 5th? Hearing none, do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Motion and support. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carries. Special orders today are great today. The first is a proclamation for Ferris State University on their back-to-back national championship football team. There's a proclamation here recognizing Ferris for their back-to-back wins. And it's lengthy. I won't read it all, but it says congratulations from all the commissioners in the city of Big Rapids for that win, and we'll get that to Ferris. I don't know how Tammy does that. Congratulations, Ferris State. It gave us press time. Hard to believe when they have an argument about what's Big Rapids and what's Grand Rapids. And the longer they talk about it, the better I like it. Because they just reinforce that we're here, we're not Grand Rapids, and I thought that was really good. If they do it a third time, maybe they'll get who we are. They talked about raising their hand and looking at the man and all that stuff. It was like, wow. That was good news. And also a special order of the day, we're going to honor that Eric Williams character for his last meeting. And Tammy, what did you arrange for Eric here?
We just got a little reception table over there.
And we're going to break for a minute and have a little reception for you, Eric.
Wow.
I don't know why. So we're going to take a break right now. Adjourn for a moment and have a cupcake and water for Eric.
Okay.
Do you have anything to say?
I guess that's pretty. Thanks. It's been a wonderful, good gig. I enjoyed it.
Nothing more to say, really.
Yeah.
Is anybody else going to get it?
I'm having it there.
You want to eat cupcakes?
Rosemary, you don't want one?
I'll take one
My mouth gets so dry, especially when I'm like pushy, but like I can never get through a while.
How many houses do you go to?
No, that's a kitchen.
Right.
21. It was a hit.
Are you?
He about keeled over when he saw it.
I know, but that's just like
You wouldn't know where you get one.
not your fault.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly what it was the last. No.
Sorry, we're in recess, Tammy. We're not interviewing.
What is that? Not just throwing out a brownie.
I feel like I've had
Okay, but you know, and
That's true. That's
I know.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Orange.
We back?
I'm back.
We're back in
You're
session.
back.
Supervisor Graham told me we were in recess, not adjournment. So.
Okay.
We're on recess. What do you call that?
Unadjourned?
You adjourned meeting in the middle. Sorry, Fred.
Thanks, Michelle.
Sorry, Mayor, sorry.
We're back in order. And we're going to go to our study session.
Mayor, if it would be okay with you, we are experiencing our continued audiovisual problems.
You promised, Mark, that we were going to do that. They were going to be perfect today.
Yeah,
Live?
yes, I guess. If we could do the general business before the study session, that at least provide some time to hopefully troubleshoot that. It seems the only work.
Does the Hills of Mitchell Creek presentation need that as well?
They're going to make some physical copies.
Okay.
If we could come back to that, that would be great.
Well, we could do the public comment or for the general business. Any public comment? If you have some, we'll service a microphone and state your name and address and be as kind as you can.
Hi. Well, I go up there or right here?
Right, and we can hear you.
I don't need a microphone. Yes. My name's Tim Seeger. I'm new here. I got here in June. I want to thank y'all. Beautiful town. Came in, beautiful flowers, beautiful everything. Trees were blooming. And beautiful town. What I wanted to talk about was the post office that the government owns, the federal government. Can we get it as Big Rapids? Maybe share it with the government. Just an idea that y'all toss around. Maybe they're only using one part of that. They can have their little spot if they want it. Government probably don't want it. It's kind of going backwards. And I don't know if the city can use it for like maybe a museum, fire department, police station. I think it make it look a cool police station or fire department. Because of, it's a good structure is what I'm getting at. And people take pictures of it just as it is. People go up there and take pictures of it. Just because it looks the way it looks. So I didn't know if we could get it from the government really cheap. Maybe they're paying for their little post office part. They're not using it all. There's 3 floors there, well-structured building. We can use it for a museum, police department, another fire department, another welcoming center. People take pictures, just bring them on up there and tell them what it's all about. But all kinds of ideas, and you guys might come up with your own. But the biggest thing is, can we get it from the government cheap enough? I think we can, if you share it with them. Give them their little spot, and maybe we can use the rest, and eventually they'll move out and we'll move in. And then Big Rapids will own it, and then it's a solid structure that tourists and other people like to look at. Just an idea.
I think what I not allow a return. There's a long history.
I know.
And Mark, do you want to give it for him and the
As best I know, Mayor, I mean, it's a functional post office operation out of there, as you know. And,
yeah.
And it's been, I would say, sort of rumored that when they built the new one, which is over on Division.
Right.
I don't know if you've been to that one.
Yeah.
They were going to, or there were talks of consolidation into one, but they wanted a downtown location. They talked about even renting a storefront and moving out of that big building because they didn't feel like they really needed it. But until they made that decision, our hands would, we really don't have a say.
So it's still in, so you thought of it. That's all I was,
Yeah.
I would keep an eye on it. I think maybe some way we could wrestle it away from them. They don't want it.
Are you a good wrestler?
if you remember,
I am not a politician, and I'm not a lobbyer, other than this little lobby here. But I'm sure somebody could lobby.
There was quite a turmoil when they said they're going to close the downtown office, move out to Division Street.
Right.
The public really.
I think it's because of the building.
The public wants the building there doing something.
Yeah. So if we get the public involved and maybe get some monies around. Because I really don't think they want the whole building to sell.
Mark Gifford, just remember you have a meeting with him and start the ball rolling.
As long as y'all got it in the mix, I would kind of keep. I think it's a good building for Big Rapids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other public comment. Thank you. Are we ready on the IT yet?
No.
No.
General business. We have our first resolution authorizing the appropriation of Custer County Development Corporation. And Mark, you're on that. Mark is on the executive committee of the MCDC.
I am, Mayor, and happy to talk about it. We have Kelly Wazik here, our executive director, and Michelle Graham, who's the president of the organization, as the supervisor for Mecosta Township. The city's economic development partnership is with MCDC of Mecosta County Development Corporation, and we have traditionally budgeted $20,000 as our contribution to their efforts. That's what we did again this year, and they have submitted an invoice for us to cut the check, so to speak. And I asked Kelly and Michelle if they could come and talk about some of the things that the organization's been working on. So, Mayor, if that's okay with you, please.
Hi, Mayor, and Board, thanks for having us. You'll see in your packet, I did submit a report, what I've been doing, what I've been up to. Was there any questions, I guess, I want to ask? Does anybody have any questions for me up front on what I've been doing? Okay. Yeah, what's that?
Other than when do you sleep?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, it was a really good report. Kelly really
Okay.
spelled it out really well.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been busy, very busy, since coming out in April, but very happy busy, and trying to meet everybody where they're at, meet with all the entities. Just a couple highlights. I've joined, as you can see, the Economic Development seat for the Michigan Works West Central Board, Mecosta County Convention Visitors Bureau. I'm very big into tourism. I'm sitting on the Wayne County Tourism as the Vice President and the Chair for the Marketing Committee. I'm moving those efforts here into Mecosta County, so joining the CDC Board will allow me to be that tourism voice, if you will, for Mecosta County. And then presenting anywhere I can. So obviously the boards and committees that we presented at, looking forward to connecting with more townships in our county, getting to all the townships is my goal within the first year. Making the introduction to every township, just to let them know we're here for everybody, not just here in the city of Big Rapids, but I work for the community and the county as well. Many retention visits, was able to get into all the big 5 manufacturers and companies in Mecosta County, as well as more. I think I did 8 retention visits total, which is going into our biggest employers here in Mecosta County, hearing what their needs are, where they're at, connecting the dots, seeing what they need going forward into the new year. In those meetings, I scheduled my next retention visit with them, so I've got all of them scheduled in the first quarter of Q1 of 2023 to do a check-in, see where everybody's at and what I can do to help them move forward, what's changed. And then with our MCDC Board of Directors, I spoke about it before, you know, that's a 44 large board, kind of unheard of, but it works for us, right? So, let me back up. December 9th was our last board meeting of the year. We presented our executive board on a new investor piece. It's not a requirement to be an investor of that board, which is not typically how the board of directors runs with the Right Place Partnerships and other our 8 community region partner counties. So we aren't making it a requirement, but asking if anybody would like to invest. We appreciate the support, and since that meeting, we're at $6,250 that have been committed that hasn't been previously from new investors, manufacturers, companies that haven't done that prior, and we're looking forward to getting more investment pieces for the board of directors. So pretty excited about that moving forward. Anything you want to add?
I would just like to thank the board for the continued support of MCDC. Without you, we really wouldn't be able to have this committee and move forward with economic development.
And I guess one more piece I'd like to add in for your MCDC looking forward 2023. I listed a bunch of things there, but I do want to highlight Mayor. We are going to have your Mayor's Manufacturing Day in the spring of 2023. Excited to start planning that and see what that's going to look like. So hope to do some one-on-ones with you and your board and see what we would like that to look like. And then partnering with Michigan Works West Central on my career quest in Ferris, doing some great things with that this year. And Project Elephant, we're just building a task force starting in January with key organizations in the community, Mayor being one of them, to join, the township things, Steve Schroeder, fire department, Consumers Energy will have a couple different representations there, and just really getting everybody on the same page, communication-wise, seeing where that's at. That might be every 2 weeks starting, every week, it depends on what we need to do to make sure everybody's on the same page. So excited to get that going in January.
Thank you. Kelly, how does you and your executive board decide which units pay which monies? It's curious to me, Paris pays quite a large amount, the city, but then each township doesn't pay. Some do, and some don't. How does that work?
That is, it's just something that it's kind of always been since I've been there. Mark's been there much longer than I have, but now we have a system that we're asking $1 per resident, whatever the census said. That's what the townships are trying to offer. Right now, we only have Big Rapids Township and Macassa Township out of the townships investing in them.
So Green Township, who's getting all the work done by you?
They've admitted that.
Okay.
Yep.
They're getting quite an advantage with you folks working hard at promotion.
Hence why they committed to that.
They just now took that to the last board meeting, I believe, where it's going to be in their budget, 23 budget.
But the rest of the townships consider the county's money them contributing. Is that correct? Because the county gives a certain amount of money.
I don't know if I would say that. I just think that previously they just didn't want to be involved, but I think they're really starting to see what's going on and much more involvement.
I was able to present at the MT Macassa Township Association's board in October, I think. I presented, and they were very happy to hear what we've been doing. People that aren't on the board of directors, there's a lot of townships that aren't involved, and so I was able to give that update. And again, being able to go to all those townships and meet them one-on-one by April is my goal, and hopefully get that engagement and that communication and get them involved with the board of directors.
Thank you. Other questions for those folks? We have a yes.
Thank you so much for this great information. There's a lot of moving pieces, obviously, in economic development. It's really helpful to me to be able to see how they all fit together. And I really appreciated seeing your calendar. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I was like, so that's a personal. That's what I've been doing. So.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for the resolution authorizing the appropriation?
So moved. Support.
There's a motion and support. Further questions? Tammy?
Cochran?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution. You're welcome. Next, we have a resolution extending agreement with McNally Enterprises, Lenex together for the city's commercial real estate agent. Mark?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Our contract for realtor services is in some ways structured a little different than normal contracts in that sometimes there'll be a fixed period of time. This is actually year to year and doesn't have an expiration to it, is the way it's structured, in that at the end of each year it's up for renewal or not. And that's where we're at this year. Joe McNally is with us. He's provided a letter in your packet and then an amended letter I had emailed previously and then put it at the table for you. I believe we have 4 properties listed currently. Correct. The Hampton site, and then there are 3 lots on Rust Avenue. And I believe Joe worked hard for the city on our behalf. One of the things that I talked to commissioners about, as well as some members of the public, was this impression of potential conflict as it relates to other members of Joe's team, and how quickly they know about things and are able to maybe bid on them quicker than others. We experienced that with our lot on Bellevue, and I think that's really where the comments came from. Joe has offered in his letter the ability to have a 30-day window in which that would be prevented from being happened. Now, our lots that properties we have listed already have been ongoing, so those wouldn't apply. That would apply, I think, to a future venture more than anything. But It's staff's recommendation to work another year with Joe at RE/MAX, but he may want to offer some comments to Mayor, however you prefer.
Thank you. Commissioners? Joe, anything?
Yeah, in regards to the mention in the letter, you saw I kind of described the timeline and how it played out because of the delayed time frame between submission of an offer to Mark, let's say, and the presentation of the meeting. There is kind of a built-in time period that does allow time for it to, I mean, the minute it's listed, the sign goes up, everything goes online, so there's no strategy there. Everything is out there immediately. But this one was a little slow developing, and I know that after the fact, there were multiple parties on Bellevue that, oh man, we didn't know, and so I'm happy to delay that a little bit. I do have one or two agents in my office that are pretty impressive. Most of you are probably familiar with the Renaults and some others, the Haynes, that love to buy, fix up, develop properties. So be happy to stagger that. As far as the contract with the city, been having a great time. Really what it boils down to is, especially with the properties we have remaining right now, we have Hanchett property. All of you know what we have that zoned as, what we're looking for there. And then, of course, Rust Avenue designated as kind of building in the city. Some of the only lots that have come available in some time to build in the city, like in that setting, beautiful setting. And so we have a lot of engagement there. When people call, they call because they're very interested. That's why they call. And they call at least every week. They get a call on Handshake, get a call on Rust. And but what they say on the phone, which is typical buyer strategy, is all the reasons why they're hesitant, right? And I think that depending on local economic obvious reasons, things that may be changing soon, we may be in a much better position of leverage. Right now, I have gotten so good at advocating for Big Rapids. I just recite every stat and every detail and every reason why. Every time I get through it, I think I add one or two more. But there's a lot of people interested. I think there's a lot of wait and see. Handshake property, we did have a recent offer, as you know. Still working with these folks. We've had some people in the past that have made offers that were unsubstantiated after further diligence, and so I'm working on making sure that we have what we need to open the door there. So, city would have me. I'd love to continue having a good time. So,
Other comments? Eric or Joe, if we're given an offer and we don't take the offer, even though it might be for what we're asking, because we just don't like the offer, that's completely legal. Is that correct?
Absent anything else, any inappropriate or illegal motivation, you don't have to accept an offer. You can decline.
That is correct.
Other questions? Do I hear a motion to accept the renewal of the agreement with McCalley Enterprises? Support. Motion and support. Questions further? Jimmy?
Copley?
Yes.
Duncan?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
How's the computer coming along so far?
Mayor, I hope you would trust me to say that there's nobody who's more disappointed in our performance here. Our system is bad. It needs replaced. It seems to only want to work when we don't have a commission meeting. So my apologies for Eric's trying to make it go together, but I don't think it's going to happen.
So just keep going, Mark.
I will just keep going if that's okay.
Next, Public Works. Performance resolution for government agencies right of way. Very exciting reading, Heather. Any comments?
Not really. It's just an annual agreement that we do with them back so that way we can work in the right way.
Anyone have questions? Mark, anything?
Nothing to add.
Is there a motion for that resolution?
Support.
Motion support the resolution for MDOT allowing us to use the roads. And
Johnson? Johnson?
Oh, yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Copley?
Yes.
Duncan?
yes. Next, the resolution authorizing the purchase of ferric chloride for the wastewater treatment plant.
Mayor, I'll start. This is a convoluted request. Dave Cushway, our wastewater superintendent, is here. He authored the position paper. Scott Paul is here from Police and Vandenbrink, who has been part of this analysis as well. I would ask Dave to summarize, if that's okay with you, Mayor.
Sure. Can everybody hear me from here? Or did I go up there?
Yeah.
We use a product called ferric chloride at the wastewater treatment plant. We use 15 to 16,000 gallons of it a year. For many years, we've purchased it under contract. We go out for bid. We typically have a 2-year contract with optional 1-year extensions, maybe 2 extensions 1 year at a time. We've been purchasing this for quite a while from a company called Webb Chemical, good company. We went out for our first extension back in August, and they came back with a very modest price increase of about 1.4%. We thought, well, that's great. Let's renew it. And so back in September, you passed a resolution at that pricing that they gave us at that time. Fast forward to October, we received our first delivery, our first invoice, and I was stunned when the invoice was about 95% higher than what it had been before, when I was expecting a 1.4% price increase. So I dug into it, was panicked that somehow maybe I had made a mistake. I enlisted Scott Paul's help. We determined that the vendor, Webb Chemical, had made a huge error in their math. So we went back and forth with them. They said, gosh, we made a huge mistake. We're sorry. We cannot supply at that price. In the meantime, I went out. There's only one other vendor that supplies this. Their price was even higher than Webb's, 95% higher price. So we worked out a deal with Webb, and I'm asking for an approval of that new pricing, which is 95% higher than where we thought we were going to be. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Scott?
Because I will just say we have seen these chemical costs increase across all treatment plants across the state. The supply of the chemical and delivery fees have increased those costs. So one of the unfortunate inflation items that are occurring.
What does the ferric chloride do?
Ferric chloride is used to precipitate phosphorus out of the process, and it also aids in settling, so it's very necessary.
Other questions? Anyone? We hear a motion for the resolution, the new price.
So moved. Support.
Motion support. Questions? Okay.
Simmons?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Eppley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Thank you. Next is a ordinance change that was brought to all of us by Rick Williams as his last ordinance change before his retirement.
I think that's correct, Mayor.
Thank you.
This is should be a non-controversial issue. This was something in my list of things to do, and so it's a little late in my tenure, I guess, to get it done. But there's 2 small subsections in the city code. One that says willfully molest, annoy, threaten, or frighten another person, and then recklessly endanger the life, health, or well-being of another person. Both those subsections I recommend be deleted. They were adopted years ago when we had a little different set of circumstances with quite a bit of street behavior that involved some significant unrest in the streets, and we had a need to be looking carefully at what people were doing within the streets and when they were out and about, and these were adopted during that era. They're not needed anymore. It just cleans up the books to delete them. So that's what's before you. We're going to be left with this. Assault and battery remains an offense in this section of the code, but the willfully annoy somebody or recklessly endanger the life or well-being of another, both of those go out. We just don't need them.
Thank you, Eric.
That's all.
Other questions?
Curious, that's going to leave us 130.01, offense against a person with no person shall assault or batter another person.
Yes.
What is the difference between that and the next one, which is specifically about assault and battery?
So when you say
130, or you just got the rewritten one? That's not an extra one, right? I just realized that. Oh, I wrote this one on, never mind.
Okay. Yep, it just clarifies, we're still gonna have the assault and battery element, and the other two are gone.
All right, got it.
Other questions? Tim, did we motion yet, Tim? There was a motion to delete those two sections in an ordinance which requires 4 votes. Motion and support. Further? Kenny?
Packard?
Yes.
Epley?
Yes.
Gunther?
Yes.
Batson?
Yes.
Simmons? Yes.
I think we're going to bounce to the talk about the water system on the hills of Mitchell Creek.
Yes, Mayor, we have officially pulled the plug on troubleshooting the audio visual, but Scott has a presentation that we're able to print out, and you should have a copy, and I'm happy to provide those to the public as well. And Scott will work off of those for his discussion.
It's not the first time I've been in this position at anywhere, so. Good evening, board. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Scott Hall, Management Engineering. I'll speak loudly. Good to see you all in person here. I know I've seen a lot of faces on Zoom meetings here, but good to be in person. Tonight, Heather and Mark had asked me to come just to give a kind of a brief history of our involvement with the Hills of Mitchell Creek Booster Station and talk about some of our involvements on past studies and recommendations for future improvements there. The station was originally built back in 2005 by the original developer. As that development was put into place, the reason for the station is at the bottom of a hill. Obviously, we have to increase that water pressure, provide positive pressure for homeowners in that area. It was originally designed for about 50 homes. Currently, there's less than 15 up there, I believe. So the water demand up there is very small. But it is necessary to increase that water pressure from about 60 pounds down to the main connection all the way up to 90 pounds so that it goes up the hill. Homeowners have adequate pressure when they turn on their faucets. One of the main challenges with the station are the pump sizes, the individual pumps that are within the station. Currently, there are two 260 gallon per minute pumps, and what triggers those to run is a pressure switch. So every time somebody opens their faucet, the pressure drops in the system, and the pumps have to turn on. Due to the capacity of the pumps, they're so large that they quickly recharge that pressure and they shut back off. In about 3 seconds time is all it takes, which is really not healthy for an electric motor to be taken on and off like that. The other challenge is inadequate fire flow protection at the top of the hill. Typically for a residential area, they like to see around 1,000 gallons per minute available. As you see, based with this pump capacity, you're closer to 500 to 520 gallons per minute. So you are still supplying water to the top of the hill. It's just at a slightly lesser rate than the recommended fire flow. It's kind of been a desire of the city to improve that and increase that system capacity up there. So in 2021, we were enlisted to do a feasibility study to look at some different alternatives to address some of the challenges at that station. We reviewed pump capacities, the water storage that's available on site, and locations for potential water storage tank. Kind of taking a look at it, even at this table here just kind of shows the REUs are residential equivalent units. So even at the full 50 build out, we're only looking at maybe 2,000 gallons a day on average. Up to 20,000 gallons a day on like a max day event. So really the feasibility of putting a tower at the top of that hill becomes pretty severely cost prohibitive. even if you went with a very small pedestal tank, well over $500,000 to $750,000. And there's some challenges with a storage tank of that size and a limited usage there. 50,000 gallons, we're only using 2,000 gallons a day. That water becomes old, stagnant, potential to freeze in the winter months. So our recommendations out of that study was to install two smaller duty pumps is what they're called, which run at a much smaller flow rate, approximately 80 gallons a minute. And they'll be pumped into a bladder tank similar to like a well house at your house. That just charges up the system with pressure and it slowly bleeds it back down. Unfortunately, due to the footprint of that building, we would have to expand the building to accommodate those tanks and additional smaller pumps. So those would be the pumps that would cycle throughout the day and maintaining pressure throughout normal daily use. And then there would be a third pump installed that, in the event of a high demand or a fire situation, could provide that 1,000 gallons per minute up to the top of the building. So that was the recommendation and some of the concepts that we put together as part of the feasibility study. And obviously it's a significant rework of that station and there's a significant cost to do that work. So it was put off for a year to study that and evaluate funding and options for that station. And then the proposal in front of you guys from F&D was for the detailed design phase, where we would actually do hydraulic modeling, review the piping layouts, confirm electrical sizing, and all the detailed design components that would be necessary to get the project approved by Eagle and bid out to contractors. Those were the main highlights I wanted to cover. It's really trying to address that short cycling of those pumps and the fire flows. Those are the two big items with this station.
Questions? Anyone?
I have a couple here. Do we know who the engineer of record is for the original design of that system?
The original engineer, I believe, what we have seen from records right is Wilcox.
Okay. And did they work directly for the developer or contractor, or did they work for the city?
I am not.
They work for the developer.
They worked for the developer.
Although Wilcox
was the developer on it.
He
Wilcox was the developer, and they did their own engineering for it, and then they went on to it.
Wilcox was one of the 7. Were there 7 people in there?
I'm not sure how many was. Wilcox was one of them.
Wilcox did work for the city at one time, but it was previous to this commissioner.
And he was an engineer, a professional
It was an
engineer.
engineering firm that no longer exists. I don't think they exist.
Do we have the original design drawings?
We have
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
What was the process of this being turned over to the city? It's just such a unique situation where we have a developer putting in infrastructure and then we're tying into it and then that infrastructure becomes ours. Does anybody have any recollection of how that handover happened? Or?
I can talk about it a bit in that we've searched for a formal acceptance or adoption of the development, the system, which we would normally expect to see, and we don't have those. We don't have a resolution that came to the commission with that presentation. The traditional way it's supposed to work, although it hasn't worked that much in any sort of recent times in Big Rapids because we haven't done a lot of development in Big Rapids, is a developer comes in, builds a road, sidewalks, water system, sewer system, storm system to our specifications, working closely with our public works staff. And then when it's done to our satisfaction, they come to the city commission and request that we take it over into perpetuity. That's how it's supposed to happen. And all indications are almost none of that happened. But I think some of the discrepancy in this particular case is it's not in the city, right? So the water system would be the only thing the city would adopt. Everything else is the township. So that may be not an excuse, but it may be in why it happened the way it did. but to shortly answer your question, we have no record of formal acceptance of that water system, although by all operations, we've been running it and have accepted it.
That's perfect. And then just in your opinion, was it designed incorrectly? Was it built incorrectly? Or is the demand on the system more than maybe the developer would have known at the time? Just trying to better understand that part.
Every engineer probably take a slightly different approach, but in my opinion, I think you would still see a lot of the same cycling problems, even at full build out if all the homes were there. Pumps are large enough that it doesn't take much to increase the pressure. You know, it just takes turning the faucet on almost, and it turns that pump right back on. And without having a buffer for storage and holding that pressure, you'd probably see similar issues.
Okay, thank you. I understand.
Another question? Eric, what's our legal obligation? What if we said, no, we're not going to give them more pressure? You can always take the fire truck and top that hill. That's how they do the rest of the townships with a tanker truck. So what's our legal obligation?
I don't know that there's a legal obligation on the city to do anything other than maintain the water system that the city accepted, if the city even accepted. Mm-hmm. But as a practical matter, if the city's going to run the water system out there and the method for correcting the water system is the same, whether it's there in the township or throughout the city, the process is still the same. You do just what's being proposed. You bid it out, you figure out what the work is, and you upgrade the system. Going back and filing suits against whoever built it or designed it, I think, is a futile effort. Statute of limitations would have passed or has passed. You could say that the city didn't formally accept it, so we're not going to do it. But I don't know where that goes. Then who will? And I think where that puts you, it's a good question. I was hoping somebody had asked it. I think where it puts you, if there's not a formal correct acceptance, is that the city could decline to accept and say that this is like a new service request, and if we're going to accept it, the only way we're going to accept it now is if we charge something to the property owners up there. And you could pick a number. I think it really goes to the city manager under the code to figure out what should be charged, as if this was a new development. And I think you could still do that. You could charge something in that area for taking it on if it wasn't formally accepted. And that would really come back to the city manager to figure out what could be charged to the people up there to upgrade the system. But it's awkward. I would keep that in the back of everybody's mind as this goes forward. Is there going to be a need to do some kind of special charge for that area, that number of lots? Whether it's for tap-in or when they later connect. Because you're really talking about building a big system for a few lots, and if they didn't pay their fair share at the start, there still may be a need to try and do that. But that's as far as I can take you for now. The rest you're going to have to figure out as this goes along, because it doesn't do any good to just go say that they can't have water. It doesn't help.
They have water. Yes.
Would that be a special assessment then, Eric?
If it's a special assessment, it'd have to go through the township to do it. The city doesn't have the authority to impose it out there. So the township would have to impose it for the city as part of an agreement for the operation of the utility out there. Or the manager would have to design like tap-in fees or similar fees for a percentage of the cost to upgrade it for each lot.
You do charge a tap-in fee now, but don't you?
And I don't think any of that would have been done in this instance. So you could kind of design it.
Well,
later.
They pay tap-in fees if they
Yeah.
develop. But we have done, Mayor, at different times, sort of individualized tap-in fees. We've done it one other time that I'm aware of where we extended the main out to Jordan. And as people tapped into that, they had sort of a enhanced or a larger tap-in fee than everybody else would pay, right? That's, I think, what you're talking
right.
about.
Because that had to do with defraying part of the cost of the line for that extension.
Yeah.
It sometimes happens with developers that want a whole new extension, and sometimes they have to pay part of the cost. That would be what may remain possible in this instance, but I think that's the only option for getting some contribution over and above the collection of the fees.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, we ran into the same problem with the sewer up there. The sewer was poorly designed. We ended up having to come in. We did a lot of the sewer. It was a mess. We have no full acceptance of anything either. The problem. I mean, this whole development was put in haphazardly.
Mayor, do you get a lot of complaints on water pressure? Does your water department get a lot of complaints?
Well, they don't call the water department.
Who do they call?
They call the treasurer's office.
Who they call this?
Me.
The township.
And it hasn't been too bad lately. It was a bigger problem when there was only one or two up there. When the first two were up there, I was getting complaints all the time. Now they either got tired of calling me and not getting an answer, or just.
Well, I think we've adjusted operations, Mayor, and we recently had an issue with power outage, so that generated some calls. I'm sure you had, but that's to be
Mark, is it true if there's a house around fire there, you could call the water department and say, turn off the.
They have some system of boosting it. I don't know how that works exactly.
Good, yeah, as part of the detailed design process, what we'd like to do is put some pressure gauges and flow meters on hydrants up there, and exactly as you're implying, have the water plant crank up the pumps, and we can take a look at those different scenarios. So, depending on the results of that evaluation, we could modify the design potentially.
Mayor, I do know I'm sorry.
It's just not a good feeling that the city, who doesn't have a single resident there, the pumps are all on township property, it's all township, that we're going to absorb. I'm guessing this is $1 million. I don't know. Everything's $1 million. The city residents are going to have to pay on their water bills the same amount that the 10 people up there are going to have to pay. It just doesn't seem fair to the city. Mark and I talked about this, and he said I got the wrong idea.
So, I want to clarify for a second, Mayor, if I could. These homes out there, they are customers, correct, of the city?
They are.
We provide them with water, they get those.
True.
So in that sense, they are no different from you or me, who live in the city, we get a water bill. As a municipality, we have utilities, right? Part of having utilities is to keep them in working order, and to prevent things like major pumps failing. Correct? This to me seems like maintenance of a system. In a way.
Mayor, a couple things. I was going to add that I know the township did training up at the Hills of Mitchell Creek that wasn't scheduled with the city, not that they would have to, but they connected to the fire hydrants and sucked the water system dry. I know that happened. And that,
you should have known that.
Yeah, that created a whole stir for obvious reasons. I don't know that you're wrong in your analysis. It's just the experience I've had with trying to assign sort of exorbitant costs to independent users, given that the Jordan Street one, we abandoned the system because nobody would hook on to it. Because they had a $10,000 plus a tap-in fee. If I remember right, I think it was $10,000. So people went and did other things now, which they could do up there, I suppose. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't drill a well and use the city sewer, right? Which, if you have a really exorbitant fee, probably happens.
That's what'll happen.
Right?
If you do a really high
fee. But in the end, we want more customers. It's that kind of
$50 a month. I'm going to pay $1 million probably.
I totally understand. I totally understand. I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to look at it. I just wanted to better explain kind of how I look at it.
Thank you. We're just going to keep thinking because I don't think there's a disaster waiting to happen. Because the fire truck can get up there with a tanker.
And we can boost the pressure, I think, to supply them, which, yeah, it's a mayor, you asked a lot of good questions.
It's been going on a long time, I hear, too, not just this year.
That's true. The first house was built, I want to say 12 years ago or something. It was shortly after the development, so it's been going on for a while.
Up until 3 years ago, there's only 2 houses up there. For the last 3 or 4 years, now we've got 4.
You want to partner with us on this repair, Bill?
No,
we got a lot of ARPA money, Bill.
And you guys do a good job with the water. You've got all the apartments down on the south side of town. You know, you guys supply the water. We've got to contract you for that. We're happy with that. That's just part of it. You've got the 50 lots there compared to all the apartment complexes.
Do you have, Mayor, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you have, has anybody approached you with any future plans to connect to that system to go elsewhere in the township? Do you see that happening?
Possible, but
I mean, if Eric Williams sold his land to him, they could put a development right out to Eric's farm.
Yeah, that's downhill. See, I don't know that it helps.
I haven't heard that.
Mayor, that was a good discussion. What do you think after listening to all that stuff?
Certainly steps out of my realm of expertise, I'll give you that. One option we could do is just do the detailed design phase of the project. It gives you a set of plan specifications that could be submitted for permit or bid out. I mean, if you bid the project and the price comes in too high, or we find an alternative, in the interim, you could stop it at any point in time, essentially. But at least then you have the solution if you chose to move forward as an option.
Did we study enough, everyone? Yes. We're going to move on. Thank you. Right. Coming way up to Big Rapids. It is Big Rapids. Jess, can you do your thing without the computer, Jessie?
Yes. I printed you copies so you can all follow along if you're able to read.
Late in the day.
Pictures.
They're pretty colors, too. We'll start our work session on Jessie Black.
So thank you all for having me here tonight. I wanted to come here this evening to share with you my final presentation that I presented to CEDM this past Thursday and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in Lansing. It's not phone up on the phone tonight. Thank you. So just to start from the beginning, I will say no, all photos in this presentation were taken with my iPhone camera because I have really enjoyed exploring in the outdoors here in Big Rapids. So just an overview of the community. Big Rapids is a great place that offers small town vibes with big city conveniences. As the sole university town and seat of the county, and it's geographically located along the 131 interstate, perfectly located right in between Traverse City and Grand Rapids, offering residents an option to enjoy a rural living setting while also having access to metropolitan areas and other amenities. So just some key context about the community, which we've talked about the estimated population of 8,976. Fun fact, I learned from Ferris's website, they have a whole deep dive on the history of Big Rapids, that Big Rapids was originally named Leonard, but people didn't really enjoy referring to it as Leonard, and they would say, I'll meet you by the Big Rapids. When the first post office was opened, the city was named Big Rapids. And it's completely surrounded by the township. These are things we know where the Goshen Battery Plant will be. And there's actually over 267 acres of local parkland, and we are the closest to the midpoint of the 91-mile Fred Meyer White Pine Trail. So these next few slides are just going over some of the biggest accomplishments I've had throughout the 15-month fellowship. First and foremost, I've had the most fun working on the Big Rapids Skate Park project.
When I started the fellowship, this was just a project that was being put into the 5-year park and recreation plan, and the community has really been advocating for over a decade. And even though it's sad we did lose a population count in the census, it did open us up for the opportunity to apply for the Put Your Town on the Map pitch competition. And we did apply, and we won the first place prize of $25,000 to put towards the skate park project. And since then, we have fundraised an additional $55,000, and we now have $80,000 going towards the skate park project, with plans to apply for a DNR Trust Fund grant in the spring, and host a Public Places Community Places fundraiser next fall, so the whole park can be constructed in the spring and summer of 2024. And a huge thank you to the local news and also local shops that have been a huge partner throughout this advocacy and just awareness of the skate park project. I would like to give a special shout out to Toppings Frozen Yogurt. In the month of August, they created 2 special bubble teas. One was flavored board slide and the other kick flip. And they donated 50% of the proceeds from each drink sale back to the project. And we were able to fundraise $300 for the skate park project all in the month of August through bubble teas, which is awesome. And on the next slide, or on your sheet of paper, it is just some really fun pictures we've been able to take throughout the year at the different skate meetup events we had. It was really important for us to give skaters a place to be able to come together and build community and connections. So we'd ask people to bring their homemade ramps out to Sweet Hill Park. And it was just a really great place, seeing age spans from 4 all the way up to 55. Just that intergenerational playtime of really learning the etiquette of the skate park together and just building community. That is something that just can't be matched. And the next achievement, I would like to start that this was the first project I did as a fellow, was writing the Pure Michigan Trail Town application, and he has since left, but I wanted to really amplify Paul Griffith, that the Pure Michigan Trail Town application would not have been possible without all of his tireless advocacy, effort, connections, and just him being the outdoor recreation champ that he is. He was an anchor for me doing that process and really helped me get acclimated as I started the fellowship, and do a really great job writing the application. And we received the official Trail Town designation at the Governor's Conference on Tourism, which was in April this year. Something really cool I want to point out, just on the pictures in this, is where you see the pictures of the depot building. On the picture on the very left-hand side, I took last fall as I was beginning to write the Trail Town application, and I just went back last week, and the pictures on the right are the pictures of what it looks like today. And so to see how far it's come in the past year, and now we're getting ready to apply for the Spark Grant and what will come with Depot Park, it is just really, really cool to see all this traction in the community. And the final achievement I wanted to highlight was having the opportunity to steer the boat to create the first marketing strategy and economic development strategy for the city. And it was super fun because throughout the process, digitally, we were able to engage 193 people, both city and non-city residents, to give their feedback on this virtual survey. And then through actual foot-on-the-ground outreach, we were able to reach about 50 people to be able to have them give us their feedback in this process. And it's just been really fun to do, to connect with people and just get their feedback and reactions to everything that we're doing. Just a big overview of some of the impact metrics from this past 15 months. We were able to complete 7 RRB criteria. I engaged 20 unique businesses across the community, as well as 385 individuals. And thanks to the Put Your Town on the Map pitch competition, we were awarded $25,000 in grant awards. And my recommendations, just going forward, is now that Lily is starting in the new communications role, If she's able to provide an annual update to you folks on her engagement, that puts the city in full alignment with our RRC Best Practice 1.4 under the Public Participation Plan. And I figured that was a really easy thing Lily could layer into her work to be able to move the city even closer. I want to leave that if there's opportunities for the Downtown Development Authority to continue exploring potential partnerships with the Michigan Main Street program, I would recommend continuing to explore that and continuing to work towards the redevelopment ready community certification with the goal of hopefully being fully certified by the year of 2025 after a master plan update is completed. As I mentioned just earlier, submitting that MDNR Trust Fund grant by April 1st of this year, which I've been working really closely with our grants coordinator for, make sure she's prepared and has everything she needs to be able to successfully write that grant application. And Emily, it has been a huge help as well and a great partner. And Emily will be taking over the administrative back end portion of all things skate park, and I'm really grateful for her friendship and collaboration throughout the fellowship. And as the new community development director position is filled, I recommend strengthening the working relationship between the City of Big Rapids and the Mecosta County Development Corporation. And then our new communications role, our community development director, and then Kelly, our MCDC executive director, just to work together to develop a metric system of what kind of economic impact we're seeing of being a trail town. I think we're going to see a lot of economic impact coming into the community, whether it be from the Goshen Battery Plant or being the Pure Michigan Trail Town, or even Ferris being a second-year Division II NCAA champ. It'll bring people through one way or another. So just having a system to develop of how that is going, I would recommend. And that is all. I do just want to say thank you all so much for the last 15 months. It has been absolutely incredible. And I have nothing but gratitude for all the time and conversations and friendships I've been able to build with all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Very good. Questions for Jesse? No? Thank you.
I just want to say that Jessie has been incredible for the city, and she will be sincerely and thoughtfully and wholeheartedly missed every day in our office. She's family for life.
Thank you. Before we go to work session, let's do some unscheduled business. I think Commissioner Simmons has.
I do. So, as we know, the Goshen Plan Project Elephant is on everyone's mind. And I just wanted to commend Green Township on their recent resolution supporting the Goshen Battery Facility. You know, this project is going to be a tremendous boon for our entire community, and I'm really looking forward to seeing our other community entities show their support and commitment to the economic growth of this project.
Thank you, Karen. I mentioned all commissioners do the same thing I do with Mark. We said all my meetings and talk about when shall we or should we make a public statement. And I think timing is so important that we have to be very careful about when we make our point across. I think I don't know how others feel. Timing is important.
It's obviously on the forefront of my mind. I think part of our job as public servants is to promote the community, promote development. And you know, as we get into the new year, I would hope that maybe we would start to think about realistically doing some sort of message of support.
I know that, I believe Ms. Wozniak said that there was an FAQ page on the Right Place website. I know that they are continuing to refresh that as they get more information available to them. And I think it would behoove us to just make sure that we are as best informed as we can be about whatever the most updated information is, so that we can field questions and be the cheerleaders as well in the Big Rapids community.
Very good.
one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
Since this was the last time we're going to be meeting this year, I want to make sure that I wish everyone here a very happy, healthy, and safe holiday. I believe we are coming into some possible not so great weather, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so if you have to be traveling, please go as safely as possible. Take your time, better to get there late than never. And I just want to, I know, as with the last few years, we've had a lot of challenges of a variety of kinds over the years, and I am just very grateful for the people here that I've had an opportunity to work with, made a big difference, and we look forward to a great year ahead. And I just want to wish that to all of you out there and all of you who are listening on that thing. Have a very Merry Christmas, a very Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 23.
Two things I have. Last Monday, the Big Rapids Township Supervisor, Bill Stanek, put on a free, paid for by Bill and cooked by Bill dinner for the firemen. And all the firemen and their families were invited. And 3 of us served. We weren't so good at it, but we served. And I think 60 firemen and their families were present, and it was Bill. That was a wonderful thing. Our firemen were invited, the city and the township, so many of both went. And it was really nice, really nice.
And it was amazing. They sat together. I mean, it wasn't the city on one side, township on the other. They were mingled at every table. It was a great time. And thank you guys for helping.
And the second thing was maybe the best thing. One of the best things as mayor I got to do was, if everybody knows Mark Breckett, who's like a go-getter in every way, shape, or form, planned the Coast Guard showing up at our parade with that huge jet helicopter to come down the way. So Mark decided that the mayor and he and a young man who made an award, an 8th grader, should go to the Coast Guard station. So we went in the snowstorm that week, and it was a great day. They were having a meeting of 110 air station guys for a safety meeting. And so they put us in the agenda at the beginning. And this young 8th grader made a sign of the flag. And on it said, the City of Big Rapids thanks the U.S. Coast Guard for, attending our parade, and put the seal of the city on it. And the commanding officer commended him. He froze when it came to time to talk. But my comment was, because we came up and gave you this, we would like you to come each year to our Veterans Day Parade. But it was very good. It was very moving, and that young man did such a nice job for us. And to think they have all those guys with 3 jet helicopters to save us if we fall in the lake. It was quite amazing. Very moving. And we can now move to work session if we would like. We'll take a short recess while we move. Everybody can go home if they'd like. You got it. We won't start.
That's what I said we were here for.
You probably should stay, Brad, today for the rules procedure. Because the next meeting's yours.
I think Mark has that.
That's why I was like, it looks like a notepad, so like I pulled it out, so like I can answer the web page. which I did. You know, so I was taking notes and stuff. And then, like,
and
right on the table.
You know what I mean.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Do you have copies of what Jesse gave you?
I agree.
I don't think I like that's kind of like the paper where I kind of like Karen.
Are you going to email with them preview and it's all in red? Makes my hat look a little.
We shall continue this discussion. I'll have to convince Brad now. I don't have to give it. Which no water system.
Stan can get after it. He's already drilled off a lawsuit. You're it, Tammy.
Set it now, and all the new lots, if anybody buys it or wants to connect, they will know their yes limits and your other limits. The way it's accepted, everybody's got to pay a fee. Unless they don't. And they don't connect.
That's not what we want. Anyhow.
We're back in session. And the rules of procedure discussion. And I think Tammy wants to lead a little bit on that. Will you, Tammy?
Yeah, I will. Everybody got a copy of the rules of procedure. There's a couple of edits on here. I did a couple of edits, and Mr. Cochran did a couple of edits. We're going to start out with one of my edits because I'm extremely confused, I guess. I know a couple of, a while back, we had looked at, had another work session on rules of procedure. And we had talked about public comment. And I guess I'm confused. We had public comment not related to items under the agenda. And we talked about getting rid of that and just saying public comment. Or am I backwards? Did we decide to keep the wording not related to items on the agenda or not?
I thought we were keeping the wording not related to items on the agenda, and that as we discussed we discussed general business, the mayor will facilitate conversations with the members of the public.
Okay, so we keep with that word. Okay, because I had struck it off because I thought we were just doing public comment. So we're not, we're keeping the word.
That's the way I saw it too. That's why when I saw it all struck off, I thought,
Okay.
I wonder what, because that way we could tell them, just hold off a minute while we get to your item.
Okay, okay, so I will correct that thing, I had stricken that off. So I'm going to tweak that stuff. Okay, that's good. Well, there's just a couple of housekeeping on here. The numbers aren't, most pages aren't numbered, but on the third page, on number 9, says here, notice of special meeting shall be given at least 18 hours in advance of the special meeting. Such notices shall be, and it says, served personally or left at the commissioners' members' usual place of business. And we haven't done that, and we don't, never done that. So I've stricken that and just said, shall be emailed and shall be posted in a conspicuous location in the city hall by the city clerk and his representative. I think that's what it doesn't mean again. Okay, got it.
So, and I've stricken and at other locations in the city. Because we do other, you know what I mean, we don't do physical locations, but we do, you know, the website, the door, you know, and the website and stuff, so we don't, there's nowhere else, but we don't put it in two hours. So I've stricken that out as well. And I think, let me see, it goes from the last two edits. I thought I would need to get changed, I should have been a long time ago, just didn't happen. Okay, those are my edits. And those, Commissioner Cochran wants to go over her edit, and then anybody else, I didn't receive any other edits, you know, by email.
I didn't have an edit, I just have questions, but we'll go through.
Yeah,
I'm
I just added, the two paragraphs on the front page, we're still remembering all wonky here. But as I'm looking through this document and thinking forward, we had also talked last July about re-examining our ethics policy sometime in the future, and I thought this was a good way to open that discussion. And Mr. Williams can perhaps give me a hand with that when the time comes. And really, I'm just looking to strengthen our procedures and strengthen our understanding of what our role as public servants is as members of this commission, and wanted these two items to be put in there to really kind of codify our commitment to operating by the highest standards possible. So the first one is respect for process, and it's pretty self-explanatory that we are going to abide by those things that we have agreed upon. And the second one is conduct of members. And the reason that I wanted to put this in is, you know, kind of contrary to, or in opposition to what Mr. Williams was talking about with removing those sections from the code. My feeling about this is that we are living in a time now where it's more important than ever that we be accountable as public servants, that we hold ourselves to a high standard of behavior, whether it's in this commission room, during a meeting, out in the public, whatever. The bottom line is that once we take an oath of office as public servants, we are public servants. We are never not public servants, no matter where we are or to whom we are speaking or in what context. So I'm just looking to strengthen and kind of put in front of us, you know, the standard to which I would like us to be achieving. And the other part of this is, of course, to strengthen why we have these rules of procedure in the first place, which is to ensure, in addition to being able to get through our business in an effective and an efficient way, to make sure that we are cultivating a culture that is founded on respect, respect for the individuals who come before us, respectful discussion, dialoguing, even if we disagree, so that we are not devolving into personal attacks on people or insults or whatever that happens to be. I'm very passionate about this because I really feel that as public servants, it is incumbent upon us to set the tone for the culture of city government that we want to have, particularly because we want to recapture and retain the confidence of the public in our integrity. And one of the ways that we do that is by agreeing to these processes and procedures so that we are consistent in how we treat people every single meeting. And that in and of itself communicates a strong message about who we are and what we are about. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
As I read through it, I was surprised that we didn't already have something in there about that.
Number 23. I don't know what those big Latin words mean. It sounds like something you eat or something. I don't know. Huh?
On the person.
I would suggest if the commission would like to do that, I think, substituting the word personal for ad hominem is going to be more direct and more readily understood by those who read it.
And actually, I thought I sent Mrs. Gillis the change of that, because I had changed that already, but it probably got lost in the morass of all my different drafts. So, yeah, by all means.
Is there any problem with number 3? It's very hard.
23?
No, 3. In blue, in red. First page.
Back to the first page.
Yeah. It's very difficult to, when you read that, it all sounds fine, but it's very hard to pin each one of those things down by the speech issue. You have to be able to question the decisions of fellow commissioners. That's legal. So, what's the difference between, obviously, you don't want to be abusive, but you've got to be able to ask a fellow commissioner, what the heck do you mean by that? That's not a bad thing that I know of.
Discourse, discussion amongst the commission is not a bad thing. The language about abusive conduct, personal charges or verbal attacks upon the character or motives of other members, I think means what it says. There is the risk that type of a rule could chill discussion, which this commission would have to measure or gauge. Is there a chilling effect by this that would make people or cause people to refrain from speaking out? If so, that's going to be a balance that the commission would have to strike. I don't think it's carte blanche illegal to have a standard like this. There is some room for members of the commission to perhaps wonder what it means in a particular circumstance, but the commission itself is the ultimate arbiter of its own rules. In other words, if the commission approves this language, sets this standard, then the commission itself decides, in a given instance, if something that's going on in a meeting is a violation of number 3. And you have it right out at your table. Somebody says, I think the mayor or Commissioner Epley is violating number 3 by those statements. And you can have that right out at the commission table.
Is it illegal to ask the motive of a commissioner?
I don't think motives are illegal to ask about.
If one of us is cheating or doing something, you think, he owns that store, why is he talking about that? I mean, there's got to be room for us to be able to do those kinds of things.
So that one is whether there's a verbal attack on a motive or a motivation.
Definition of verbal attack is very difficult to pin down.
And I agree. This is a commission standard. If the commission wants to adopt the standard, then it's up to the commission to apply it.
I would suggest, that a large part of this is, and I understand that it's a little slippery perhaps to grab hold of, but the whole concept of intentionality with this comment. So I think you can ask a commissioner, could you help me understand your motives for this decision without verbally attacking them and accusing them of bad intention. That's where I see the difference in this.
Mayor, I see it in a little bit of a different light as well. So I should be held accountable in the same way our members of the public should be held accountable. So if I look at what we spell out in terms of, I look at what it's called, disorderly conduct at meetings, attack would be, or, I need to be accountable in the same way our position is.
the
And
more,
it's just a different take on it, but when I think about it that way, it kind of levels out the playing field, I wonder.
you have to allow freeze to occur.
I think this does.
Quite restrictive. You have to be really careful. You have to allow it to speak freely. It's an interpretation on volume of voice and all those things that flow into that, but you have to allow interchange, and some people would view that as abusive or mean or whatever, whereas other people might say, oh, that's just the way it is. And if you're going to put rules on that, we better be careful.
In the context of a meeting, sponsored by this legislative body, our job is to ensure that everyone in the room feels safe to speak without being attacked, without being maligned, without being belittled or denigrated or any of that kind of stuff. So really the purpose of the whole rules of procedure, as was indicated in our handbook, and I'll go back to that discussion that we had back in July, is to ensure a safe environment for everyone to participate in. By virtue of the fact that we all adhere to these rules, and we recognize that you can have debate on substance without personally attacking individuals, because it's the personal attack that then shuts down the conversation. That cuts off your ability to have that debate or that discussion. So I think that is in that context, that's that's.
If I may, when I was reading through here on the section 3, I read it as an allowance to question, but to do so respectfully, in a way that, like Commissioner Cochran said, would allow for the conversation to flow without an interruption, a pause, a break, and we're going to have to revisit this another day. So everybody's still allowed to say the things they need to. If you need to call somebody on something, do it because that's their job. Just do so with dignity and respect, and not with some of things, nice comments that don't help the productivity of the process. Okay.
Well, you know, it's like
I think then that work sessions should be either better constructed or not done. Because a work session is supposed to be where we should look at each other, just go right at it and get stuff done. And it's work session is useless if all you do is do another commission meeting.
Well, first of all, these are meant to govern the entire meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Work sessions are here for us to get further in information and have an opportunity to discuss issues that are going to be coming before us for a vote, so that we have more time with it. We can get into the meat of it more. But regardless whether it's the work session or the general session or any time that we're in the commission meeting room, the culture that we want to inculcate here is a culture of respect and fairness, equitability, and integrity. There's never any reason, in my mind, to devolve to name calling, other means of personal attacking. The whole point of the rule, if you will, is to focus us on the substance of the issue and not on the personal, not on the personal characteristics.
And it harkens back to the ethics policy that we reviewed a few months ago, but then also our commitment to each other, which we do every year, and we talk about our rules of procedure. And to me, it's just a natural flow with the document. I did not see work sessions listed anywhere in here.
But probably not, because work sessions have really been relatively new, and they've never really been added to the rules of procedure.
No, they're not.
I think they should be, and I think we did. We had some language that we agreed to a number of meetings ago. But I think that work sessions have a tremendous value because it's time for us to build our relationships with each other. We can't necessarily all hang out after a meeting and talk about things. So it's an opportunity to get to know each other a little better and get some more insight, which I appreciate because I didn't read number 3 in that way. So it was good to hear it from your perspective.
Could we take just a couple minutes and get Commissioner's thoughts or descriptions about what you'd like to have about work sessions? I don't think Annie or I or anybody worked on that, so it's a great point to bring up. Thank you.
Well, my other thought process was, what does MML have for respective process or conduct of members? I mean, it's kind of a benchmark for us and how we govern.
Commissioner Cochran quoted a little bit from the MML.
This is in that.
Can
we have the number?
That was next to number 23.
Okay. Right.
There's a little bit from them.
I just wondered if maybe they have some language.
Similar to what Commissioner Cochran suggested?
It's always good to, like I said, they're the benchmark for us, right?
We can look.
I downloaded the handbook. I can send it to you. I'd be happy to. Well, I'd have to send it to you to send out.
Yeah. No, I trust your research. I was just curious. And then it just seemed to me that they might have something on work sessions as well. But what we've talked about is where we shine is with structure. And the more structured work sessions are, I think the more successful we are as a team. From my perspective, this work session has been very structured. We have someone leading the exercise, we have a document to review, we have an end goal, and they're a very valuable thing. Because I value all of your opinions, whether or not I agree with you or not. I want to know opinions.
So number 17 then, where it says agenda order of business, then after number 11, 12 should be work session and 13 should be adjournment, I believe.
After 10, before 11?
I wonder, so Mayor.
Do it after 11.
Yeah, Mayor.
That's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do.
After 11 and then 12 is work session.
Yeah, and then 13 is adjournment.
So where else in here do we want to put work session as a number?
Is there something about a study session?
18 is study session.
So I think we just have.
We have 19 work session.
And I for one want to take some more time to think over, page 1, the respectful process and the conduct of mayors of members, and train it a little bit more from your perspective, Mayor, and think on it. And so, because I think we need to vote on it at our next meeting,
or could we? The second meeting in January.
Okay. So
I have it slated for the first. I'm going to bump it.
Okay.
That way I can get the edits done, and we can work on this work session, bring it back to you guys, and then you can look at it. And then the second meeting in January, then we can adopt it. For the holidays, it's going to be kind of hard to do all that for the first meeting.
Like I said, I have some time to reflect and maybe reach out to other commissioners.
As soon as I get the edits done, then I can go ahead and get it out to everybody, and then you can kind of look at a fresh page. I'm not quite sure what to say about the work session at this moment.
I was trying to elicit a couple comments from commissioners about what they thought work sessions were supposed to be or whatever that we might toss into this number 18 to get started. But if nobody really was up for that, then
I do have a comment. We did have one work session, I believe, that was hosted at the library where we had voted on how work sessions should run. maybe using that as a foundation to build off of and adjust
Let's start.
with all of our insight into what that looks like and if something needs to change from there.
Well, and the other thing that we talked about too is, not doing a work session at every meeting. And having topics ahead of time where, we talk about budget in January or we talk about, communications and marketing. I think back in the summer, we had made a list of all the things we want to talk about. I don't think we're ever going to run out of things to talk about.
Okay, on that list, I think we pretty much, we stopped in October, we didn't go any further, and I think we've already accomplished all of those. We just didn't go any further.
And I think sometimes there's questions.
I have a couple of suggestions for number 3, conduct of members, which people are focusing on. I would suggest that you look to add a sentence in that is framed and stated in the positive. In other words, the mayor is pointing out the need to have a free exchange of ideas. That ultimate goal of having a free exchange of ideas is worth putting in. But also, I've heard a couple words: courtesy, respect. I think you can put in a positive statement that you hope and expect that the meeting will be conducted by members with professional courtesy, respect, and encouraging the free speech and comments, unrestrained comments. And then, when you've identified those positives that you all hope and expect to occur at the meeting, then if you add the last sentence and perhaps narrow it a little more to personal attacks, which everybody seems to understand, I think you'll get more benefit from the comparative statements. The positive of what you want to have at the meetings that everybody can agree upon, and then if one negative everybody can agree upon in personal attacks, even though it might be hard to decide what are personal attacks, then you have that contrast together.
You've got a sentence that you want to use.
I can sure come up with that.
I stopped writing because I know it's so much better.
So what I heard from the commission is that I compliment you folks for addressing what is obviously a difficult topic for this group. And there are 2 big concepts coming out that people shouldn't be bashful about. One, as the mayor said, is he wants that free exchange of ideas, even if that might get, probably from his perspective, rough and tumble, but he wants that frank exchange. Frank exchange is valid, but on the other hand, if frank exchange at some point leads to personal attacks that also chill discussion, that's worth bringing out. And I'm hearing the expression of both those principles or statements. That's healthy, and we probably ought to try and reflect it. And maybe the last thing I do for the commission is help with that. I'll take a swing at it. And then Mr. Fowler can finish.
I may add that we should tie in what you put in the 3 and 23 because it's one of the
That's where I was coming from. I think they need to have very similar language, because if we can all say in 23 exactly what we want, then 2 and 3 are easy, right?
Some of those things that the zero tolerance policy and the steps, the progressive steps that are in the comments. And some of that might be worth fleshing out in 23. So what happens if there is a breach of one of these rules, whether it be a member of the public or anybody, how are they going to be dealt with by the commission? If reading 23 is not everybody knows, but it's providers who then determine what it's going to go any member of the public, anybody. That's one of these points I want.
Well, ultimately, it would be the mayor, correct?
Right.
They're saying the language isn't clear then.
Well, it isn't included. It's off on the side there.
I assume the rules say that
gotta get it in by Tuesday for the Friday presentation for the Monday meeting. That didn't change, we're going back to the old way. So everybody knows that, because that was discussed.
And one thing that I talked to Mark about after I heard from Heather and Tammy at the meeting was, I think what I wanted, what I was looking for was the draft of agendas a couple of weeks out. It's my understanding is we have. And that in and of itself, that's great. And I don't think it impacts.
And times there may not be a lot on it, but
I'll take a blanket piece of paper. Which is ultimately what I was doing.
Tammy, where's the rule about whatever the time of getting it? Which one?
It's buried in there, you gotta.
Can we look at it and see if it really
It's a really short little 5-day or Tuesday or some.
Can we see if it says what's really happening?
It doesn't. It doesn't need to go to Mark on Tuesday. And my understanding is that it needs to go to the city clerk. What number is that?
I think that's 15.
Regular meeting agenda preparation.
Yeah.
Listen, keeping everybody, okay, all matters to be placed on the agenda shall be received in the office of the city manager by the close of business on the Tuesday preceding the next regular meeting.
Is that the standard you use to do agenda preparation, meaning everything's got to be in so that you can send it out?
Yeah, now whether it goes to Mark or whether some of it goes to Mark, some of it gets to me.
Doesn't matter to you what
Not really. No, because he knows about it, I know about it, and vice versa. We work pretty close on the agenda. I mean, staff usually will roll it by, Mark before, getting to me, but I usually get a heads up. Hey, we got Mechanic Street, Consumers Energy, but that's all I get. Now, it'll come down the pipe, but the agendas are usually pretty rough draft. You may just see a couple words on there, Consumers Energy, Mechanic Street, until I actually get all the information. But they want it on there so that we don't lose track of it. It doesn't fall through the cracks. And you'll also notice that some of the stuff will be bumped from week to week to week. Like tomorrow, we have a staff meeting. We look over the agenda for the 3rd. They may say, not ready for Mechanic Street, it's got to go to the 20th. Oh, well, we're really not ready. It's going to get bumped to February. So you may see this stuff. If you're looking at these agendas out, you may see them, it's either off, totally off, or it may be gone. And you're like, where'd that go? Well, it could be 2 months down the road because we're just not ready. The vendors aren't ready. The consumers ain't ready. We're not ready. So you're going to see a lot of that. So just in case you're wondering where things are going.
It gives me an opportunity to talk to the city manager about it ahead of time and talk to other commissioners.
Just like today with this Hills, Central Creek. I'm not sure if it's coming back to you or not. It's on slated for the 3rd, but I don't know what we do. We don't know. So you may or may not see it on the next agenda.
And then number 16 is the one that dictates when the packets are sent out.
Yeah.
Are you still doing personal deliveries, mailing or doing personal deliveries? Or is it more of a, we pick up our printed packet or you email it?
I'll print it out. Amanda likes to get it, Commissioner Dunn likes to get it, we print it out, we put it in the window, comes and picks it up, we do email. I can't remember the last time I ever mailed a packet.
So it would be more distribute hard copies for commissioners to pick up as public city. We don't do personal deliveries or you email it to us. You also put it in our Dropbox.
Years ago, managers used to deliver it.
I
still should.
Jim Murphy did it.
I've delivered them. You can find it. Where are we?
I know. 19 packets, 45.
Yeah, put it on there. When do you put it on the website?
That Friday.
the same time that they go out.
Is that part of the time?
Yeah.
Commissioner Update, do you have anything you would like to? We haven't heard from
He's making a lot of comments and being very thoughtful and attentive.
No, I don't have any.
Next question then. Who's gonna do, I am happy to work on the wording of this. Do you want to do, how should we go about the rewording of this? Or Mr. Williams, you're gonna offer?
I will try and get a draft out this week.
Okay.
I'll route it through Mark and Tammy to be given to the commission.
Okay.
So that everybody gets to see whatever I get started with, and then whoever wants to work with it and run with it. But I'll get something back out.
Okay.
Hey, do you wanna work on that together? Cause I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm gonna be editing too, or you doing all the editing?
I got ideas of the work session. We can connect. You come and discuss it.
Sure.
Yeah, we're good.
Cause I could do my editing first and get it to you tomorrow.
Great.
And then, you know what I mean, then
Yeah.
you take over what you've got in your notes.
Happy to do it.
Okay.
Maybe the charter commission is gonna be on the next ballot, when does it have to go in to the county?
The charter revision, we would have to do both the charter revision and the name. And,
Same time.
well, that's, you should, yeah, we should both have the same thing. You don't have to, but it should. In order to get to the November ballot, people would have to, I believe, have the petitions in by July. Which means you gotta back it up for them to get it probably April, May.
How many are there?
Nine.
And if you get 8,
Then you would have to appoint someone.
I think it would be, well, I think it might be a good work session topic to strategically talk about how do we get people to run for No, come on.
last time they had a terrible time, I heard.
Oh, we had a terrible time.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a really good time.
We may have a really good time. The other alternative is to come up with just 1 or 2 items and run it through as a ballot proposal.
Say that again? They could individually, the public can individually vote on some section that you want to change. It doesn't have to be a comprehensive thing.
Yep. So if you identify one issue or 2 issues that are really important to the commission, you can run those through as a ballot proposal. And then if there's a lot of excitement in the community about the ballot proposal, that may generate excitement in the community to want to be on the charter commission.
Doesn't it sound exciting to be on the charter commission?
Only to 2 or 3 people I've known in my whole life.
It sounds exciting to
And
me.
I'm one of them.
Maybe that, yeah, I would do it as a work meeting, yeah.
It can't be more than 3, it can't be more than 2.
No, I'm already elected, I'm an elected official already. I can't, no.
Carl will be out there.
So if we wanted to have a charter revision for November, we would have to talk about it really.
That's why I brought it up.
March was in my head, like we need to just get it formulated and organized by March.
Not start in March, yeah.
Could we
compensate that?
For the
And is
charter
that
commission?
something that we could draft something that creates a buzz where we will make it where we would have to investigate to see if it's legally we can.
Okay.
Because I'm not doing it on the charter.
Yeah, it's right in the statute. Yeah.
That what, we can or we can't?
Can.
Can, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pay for it, not compensate the charter commissioners. You can pay, you gotta give them a budget. I misunderstood.
But they can't pay themselves.
No, the charter commission can't pay themselves.
Unless
So
we.
it's 0.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the charter and that people vote on it.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I didn't process it.
You gotta be real careful on that.
It's an age thing there.
I'm sure it is.
Vertical.
You must have already experienced it.
You know, you can tell us the last
Any other business for the city? Anybody? Officer? We're adjourned.
Have a great
I hope so.
Monday
No.
is the third Tuesday.
Doesn't that sound really
You're
cool?
gonna work for it?
No.
Okay.